He's heard what's been said. Now he's firing back and holding back nothing. We'll tell you what it means as we crank up another hour of Get Up from New York, starting right now with the national championship game, our game of the night. 1 seed Virginia taking on 3 seed Texas Tech for all the confetti. Second half, 3.5 to go. Turned out to be a much better game than anybody saw. Texas Tech down 3, not anymore. Culver, dish, yes, plus the foul. Patrick Mahomes thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to tie this game with a free throw, and they do. Later in the half, under a minute to play. Texas Tech down 1. Culver, yes, Texas Tech the lead. Oh, look at the fans back home and love it. They're going crazy. Now, here's the play of the night. Virginia down 3, under 20 seconds to go. Oh, how does DeAndre Hunter wind up wide open? For the time 3 in the corner, he scored 17 in the second half, tied at 68. Chance to win it for Culver at the buzzer. No good. Going to overtime. First time in the title game in 11 years. In the OT, UVA down 1. Hunter again. Spectacular. 27 points for DeAndre Hunter. Virginia fans can feel it. They're up a deuce. Same score, minute 15 to go. There's a critical moment. Jerome, the drive. No good. We're going the other way. Davide Moretti is going to have this ball poked away by Hunter. The call on the floor is Texas Tech ball. Take another close look. Instant replay looked at it 6, 7, 8, 9 times. It does go off Moretti. They reverse the call. Virginia makes free throws. They extend the lead, and then they do this. Braxton Key with the exclamation point. Virginia from despair to the top of the mountain in 12 short months. They win it 85-77 in overtime. Virginia, your national champs.
Forget last year. This is just everything you dream of since you're a little kid. You know what I mean? I'm not even thinking about UMBC right now. I'm just thinking this is a dream come true.
You have scars, right? You have a scar and it reminds you of that. But, you know, it's a memory, and I does it go away completely? No, I wish that wouldn't have happened in some ways. Now I say, well, if it bought us a ticket here, so be it.
We definitely had our time. We were in our shells and upset and whatnot, but to be able to move past that and get where we are now is incredible.
Is the pain gone? I mean, I still feel a little, because I remember that feeling, but I think I'm okay.
Now, we just had Tony Bennett live here a couple of minutes ago. A year ago, his team suffers the most embarrassing loss in tournament history and used it as motivation. 86% of Virginia's scoring in the tournament this year came from guys who were on that team that lost to UMBC last season. So they go to the top of the mountain. The frustration, meanwhile, this time for Texas Tech in the locker room after the game.
Bad call, man.
Why?
Bad call. Terrible call.
Do you think replay got in the way of what had been an unbelievable game?
Man, I'm done playing college basketball, so I can probably say, but I don't want to say nothing.
Frustration for Texas Tech. Let's go live to Minneapolis, where Jay Williams is standing by. Jay, Will, thank you for doing this. We showed it in the highlight there. You just heard the reaction in the Texas Tech locker room to the ball getting knocked away in overtime and the reversal. What did you make of the way it was handled?
Greeny, it was the right call. You know, it's unfortunate sometimes these things happen throughout the course of a game, but it was the right call, and I'm glad the refs actually got the right call. I have no complaints about the way the refs reffed the game last night. None at all.
So then let's see if you have complaints about the defense, because that loose ball is one critical play. We showed the play where DeAndre Hunter gets wide open late in that game. What do you believe cost Texas Tech this night?
Well, of course, I think that was a big-time play. Your defenses never should contract. But I go to something else that I think is becoming a bigger issue in college basketball, is that, you know, at the end of regulation for Jarrett Culver, you have the ball in your hands. The game is tied. I do not know why a lot of college kids decide to settle and take a long three to try to win the game. You know, maybe it's just the way I was raised, Greeny, but the way I was taught is that the game is tied. I'm going to try to get somewhere in that operating space of a middle game for either a mid-range jump shot or take the ball to the rack and create contact. Jarrett Culver was so great at getting to the rim because he didn't have a three-point shot. He was 0 of 5 when he took that three. Racked the ball, put the refs in a situation to make a call. It's unfortunate that Jarrett Culver had that opportunity in his hands and he didn't take advantage of it. It doesn't come down to one play, but that's a play that's going to halt Jarrett Culver for a long time.
Yeah, it's a very good point, because it wasn't a buzzer beater. I called it a buzzer beater in the highlight, but it really wasn't. There were 5 or 6 seconds left on the clock, so there was ample time for him to try and take it to the hole. So that's obviously the disappointing side of this. Let's go to the other side. I mean, what do we say about UVA? Kyle Guy named the most outstanding player. Who did you think was the biggest winner last night?
It was DeAndre Hunter. He made himself a lot of money. He made himself millions of dollars last night. And Jay Rose can appreciate this. I saw a guy who was almost like OG Anunoby, who plays for the Toronto Raptors, like a three-way guy, a 3-and-D kind of guy that can defend multiple positions. He actually locked up Jarrett Culver. Jarrett Culver was 5 of 22 from the field for only 15 points. But also on the opposite end, this dude gave them 27 points, made a three that was a dagger to tie the ball game up. And the versatility of his game is going to make him fit automatically into the NBA. Last night, I mean, between myself, Chris Long, Danny Amendola, Charles Barkley, we were raving about him last night at the hotel bar, just about the fact that he kept coming at you all the time. Like, this is who this kid is. And before, he may have been top 10 pick. I think now he's a top 5 pick in a draft that nobody really knows who's going to be behind the 3 picks in the NBA draft between R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, and John Morant. The 4th name could be DeAndre Hunter because of last night.
Yeah, it's a great performance, no question about it. Hits the big clutch shot to tie it in regulation. Jay, Will, thanks a million. Get some rest, my man, and we'll see you when you get back here to New York. We're looking forward to it. And you know who was among those congratulating Virginia on winning the championship last night? The crew from UMBC, who made themselves, their social media became legendary last year when they knocked out UVA in the first round. Last night they tweeted what an incredible season for UVA. It was a turnaround for the ages. Congratulations to the champs. So let me bring it to the table here. Farnham, who covers the sport all year long, and Jalen, of course, you played in this championship game twice in your career. Let's just start with the call, because so many things stem from these conversations. So did they get the call right? When they go back and look at the call, should they be able to call the foul that was obviously missed or the travel that was obviously missed? And where does that end at the end of the day?
I like where we're at right now in college basketball as far as the review system goes. I mean, look, now here's the problem, all right? People at home think that what you're seeing on your monitor is what the officials are getting. It's not. We use a different system. We use a DVR system that is an in-house system. That means that there's somebody that's literally scrolling and trying to find the best angle to show the officials. I think it would be better served for a lot of these officials and these crews if they could simply talk to our producers and say, hey, I want to look at that last play. Show me your best angle. Give me your best 2 angles. It would shorten that time up a lot. And I think that's the complaint. The amount of time it takes to get the review, they should not be complaining on whether or not that call was right.
The officials didn't cost Texas Tech the game. DeAndre Hunter having a career-high 27 points is the difference in yesterday's game. And also, when you give up that 3 at the end of regulation, that could be devastating for a basketball team. So much so, they did not look the same in the overtime. I think they were demoralized after giving up that shot, and you have to give credit, all of the credit, to Virginia for overcoming so many obstacles.
You know, we had Tony Bennett on just a few minutes ago, and we talked about all the miracles they needed to win this thing. Yes, they were down to Gardner-Webb in round 1, but they bounced back from that. But they need a miracle to get into overtime against Purdue, and they get it. They need a miracle to beat Auburn in the semifinal, and they get it. And then they needed that huge clutch 3 last night. As a player, when those things start going your way, what is that feeling? Because as a fan, I look at it and I say, you know what, this was just destined. This was just meant to be. As a player, what do you feel?
It's almost like when a team's on a win streak and then all of a sudden a break happens. And you feel like you want to just keep going. You want to keep riding that momentum. You want to keep riding that wave. And survive and advance is what that team embodied this year. They had their turbulent stretches where they could have folded. And after you lost to a 16 seed last year, there's going to be some doubt in the back of your mind. So for them to overcome all of that and cut down the nets is truly phenomenal.
And Sean, again, you cover the sport all year long for us. This was the year of Zion. Everyone talked about Duke. Any other retention that exists in that conference goes to North Carolina. Meanwhile, Virginia's really been consistently the best team in the conference for the last several years. What does it mean that they win the championship?
What it means is that you don't need one and dones. That's been proven over and over and over again in college basketball. We'll talk about them, and we should celebrate them. I don't think they're bad for the game. Like, I love the fact we got to see Zion. I would have loved to see him in the NBA this year, too. But, hey, we're always going to have one and dones. But what this tells me is you recruit, you develop. DeAndre Hunter developed. Jarrett Culver is maybe the most improved sophomore in all of college basketball. He struggled last night. 17 missed shots for him. But overall, that's a guy that nobody was talking about being a first-round pick to becoming a lottery pick himself. And so coaches can develop, you can develop your game, and I think that's what I'm going to take away from this.
You got to think about that next year when you're filling out your bracket. 9 of the 10 starters in yesterday's game are older than Luka Doncic.
Correct. How good does that, by the way, bode for Doncic? I saw that yesterday as well. All right, congratulations to UVA. Let me get up and go with two other college basketball stories that I thought were interesting. Let me start with you on this thing, Chandler.
Okay.
Trey Jones is going back to school. You said it multiple times, and Duke confirming yesterday the freshman point guard will go back for his sophomore season. What do you think of that decision?
It's smart, and Sean just touched on it. Like, it's okay to continue to play collegiate basketball and develop and mature. And so what ends up happening is now he gets a chance to come back. You know Duke's going to bring in more All-Americans. He's going to be a lot better as a point guard. His shot's going to improve. He's going to look like a better prospect this time next season.
As we also get up and go with another college story, and this one's for you, Farnham. Despite a strong push by UCLA, including a package that would have paid $5 million a year, Rick Barnes has decided to stay at Tennessee. You're a UCLA guy. What's your reaction?
This is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's 100 days in on a coaching search, and we have now offered the job, at least publicly. We've talked about John Calipari. We've talked about Jamie Dixon. Now we're at Rick Barnes. You have to be able to close the deal and get this done. For me right now, with everything that's gone on, it's very simple. Offer Earl Watson the job. Earl Watson coached in the NBA. For those of you out there that are saying he doesn't have his degree yet, fine, that's great. He's working on his degree right now as we speak. Offer Earl Watson the job. Allow one of our own to coach UCLA. If it fails, at least you gave the opportunity. But right now, you just keep going down the list, going down the list, going down the list. It's tougher and tougher for that next coach to come in and gain footing and traction, in particular with recruits.
Oh, what a noble idea. We're going to give the job to somebody that actually played there, that's going to be able to galvanize the alumni and the former players. Like, this is a prestigious job. And it baffles me as somebody that lived in California over 20 years, how people are turning down this job, how it's not a glory situation. I think he'd be a terrific person if they chose to give him the gig.
So that's one problem they have in basketball in Los Angeles. Let's now get to another as we bring Brian Windhorst back into the conversation to talk about LeBron James, who last summer made what some are considering purely a business decision, leaving Cleveland, heading to the Lakers. As of today, Windy has a new book. It is in stores. It is called LeBron Inc., and it chronicles the making of a billion-dollar athlete, and it is all about LeBron, and it is all about the business side of this. And it's fascinating, Wendy, because the Lakers season comes to an end tonight. Of course, for LeBron, it ended some time ago as they shut him down. But they have their last game tonight. So where does the rest of the Lakers' lives begin starting today?
Their offseason starts, really their offseason's already started, but it functionally will begin as soon as they're done tonight with the Portland Trailblazers. They got to make a choice on Luke Walton, which I feel confident that they've already made, that they're going to move on. And then once they get their new coach in place, which is not a minor thing, they have got to retrofit this roster. And they've got to do it through the draft. They've got a very important draft pick to make, whether they move up or not. And then they have to do a very delicate balance in free agency, which is how long do we wait for players, and how long do we move on and get second-tier guys while knowing that LeBron James expects you to build a championship contender?
The top 4 free agents this year, all names just happen to begin with K. I don't think any of them are going to the Lakers. KD, Kawhi, Kyrie, and Klay. So then you go to the secondary free agents, as Wendy just mentioned, possibly Jimmy Butler, possibly DeMarcus Cousins. The unique thing is, of course, they want Anthony Davis. The problem is he doesn't control his own destiny. And I don't think the Pelicans are going to deal with the Lakers. And also the package that they were offering, you can't necessarily offer that package now because Ball's coming off an injury. You got to see what's happening with Brandon Ingram's health based on his blood clot situation. So their scenario is going to be in flux. But I do believe Tyronn Lue is going to be their next coach.
And I believe that it's not going to matter, to be honest with you, because I don't see them making this changing this roster enough to compete in the West. I mean, you just listed all the guys they're not going to get. So we're no, and no on the top 4. To build this team into a contention, even if you get a good pick in the lottery, all right, they're probably not going to get number 1. That'd be crazy if they got number 1. But say they got number 4. At number 4, we're talking about DeAndre Hunter. Very good player, but is he a game changer for the Lakers in this year's draft?
Is he someone that all of a sudden the Pelicans are more interested in making an Anthony Davis trade because he's in it? If it's not Zion, are they interested?
The Lakers cannot execute a trade if the Celtics make the best offer.
Yep.
If the Celtics don't make the best offer, the Lakers and some other teams come into it. But really, again, they're waiting in line. Just like for free agents, they're waiting in line.
All right, we'll have more on this as we go in again. Wendy's book is available in stores today. You should run out and pick it up. Another superstar very much in the news, and that one is Aaron Rodgers, who is now disputing claims vociferously that there was tension between he and former coach Mike McCarthy, and that tension caused organization-wide dysfunction. All this in response to a report published by Bleacher Report last week that had hugely critical accounts from some of Aaron Rodgers' former teammates. Give a listen to a taste of what Rodgers said yesterday.
It's not a mystery. This was a smear attack by, a writer looking to advance his career, talking with mostly irrelevant, bitter players who all have an agenda, whether they're advancing their own careers or just trying to stir old stuff up. Part of the article seems to want to say, the Packers are worried about me as the leader of the football team moving forward. If they knew that, why would they offer me a contract last year? And two, if I really dislike Mike that much, why would I re-sign? Knowing if I play well and we do what we do around here, it's going to be me and Mike my entire career. So if I really disliked him that much, you think I'd re-sign? Am I really is the money that important to me? I love Mike McCarthy. Mike has been a huge part of my success in my career, and I've had some amazing moments on and off the field with Mike.
All right, craziness, and it continues. And we had Matt Hasselbeck yesterday, our NFL analyst, and we have him back here, and we're glad for that. Matt, thank you very much. This has obviously become a huge story as Green Bay looks to kind of turn the page to the next chapter for their organization. So now that it's taken this turn, what is your reaction?
Well, it's a huge story because there were some outrageous claims in that article, and you thought, wow, was it really this dysfunctional? Did he really hate Mike McCarthy from the moment that he showed up in Green Bay? And, if so, how were they so successful? How did they win the Super Bowl, NFC Championship? Like, how did they get this done? And so I think what we saw yesterday was Aaron Rodgers stepping up and refuting what he calls his gossip, non-facts. The story's not true, doesn't make sense. Here's an agenda that I feel like is happening. He didn't do it, I don't think, to protect himself. I really felt like he did it to protect Mike McCarthy. A lot of times as a quarterback in the NFL, you're going to get criticized. That's just part of the job. Get used to it. Thick skin, earmuffs, blinders, like block it all out. But this was different. This was an attack not only on Aaron Rodgers and his leadership style, but also on Mike McCarthy, who just got fired. A lot of people are saying the reason that he got fired was because of the relationship with Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers just said, hey, enough's enough, and I'm going to step up and speak for a while and speak freely and name call. Like he didn't mince any words. And so it's unusual to see, but I for one, really enjoyed the honesty and the candor.
And there was one other piece of this we wanted to play for you here because I know you had a strong reaction to it. Let's hear a little more from Aaron Rodgers yesterday.
We as Packer fans and Packer people, I think we need to honor Mike and respect him the right way. We had a hell of a run. We had 13 years, 4 NFC championships, 1 Super Bowl, 8 straight playoffs, 19 straight wins. We did some incredible things. So instead of trashing this guy on the way out, let's remember the amazing times that we had together. Because Packer fans, remember this, especially those of you who live in Green Bay. Mike lives here. Mike has young kids here. So Mike has to be here. Think about how difficult it is for him. So my favor that I would ask of you strongly is if you see Mike, shake his hand. Tell him thanks for the memories. Tell him thanks for the coaching job that he did.
Matt Hasselbeck, why did that stick out to you so much?
I just really feel like that's not a side of Aaron Rodgers that we hear about, talk about, people whisper about. You don't hear about that personal human element from coach to quarterback. And I'll say it, with head coaches or play callers that I've played with, it wasn't always smooth, but I always respected them. And I always, at the end of the day, at the end of the game, at the end of the practice, end of the work week, it's like, that's my guy and I'm your guy. And I think that's what we've seen in Green Bay. This is the winningest coach in Green Bay Packers history with one of the great players in the history of the game. I just thought those words were powerful, a message to Packer fans who it's a passionate fan base. But to me, I earned a lot of respect, or I gained a lot of respect for Aaron Rodgers in that moment, in that statement.
Yeah, me too. Two things can be true at the same time. He can have felt as though it was time to make a change there and still admire and appreciate the former coach. He doesn't have to have hated them in order to feel like it was time to move forward, right?
Well, I also think that, you talk about quarterbacks in the NFL. Who's the guy that, we all looked up to in a way? Tom Brady. Tom Brady's the guy that you say, you know what? He is setting the standard. He is pushing the boundaries. He's doing it in a bunch of different ways. But his humility and coachability are one of the things that stick out the most. He's the most accomplished quarterback, and yet he seems the most coachable. And so I know that Aaron Rodgers, he also is one of those guys that looks up to Tom Brady. And I think that humility and that coachability, we don't see that side of it, but it's there.
Well done. Well said. Matt Hasselbeck, thanks a million for doing this. We'll see you soon. Meanwhile, as we continue, Antonio Brown still in the center of the news, taking aim at a former teammate again. Our Ryan Clark has heard enough. We have RC on AB as we continue in a moment. And for a great defensive team, Texas Tech made a huge mistake at the worst possible moment. We'll show you how that error cost them a national championship. That's next. Get Up on ESPN.